Have you ever heard someone say that countries around the world are drowning in debt? The United States owes trillions of dollars. Japan has massive debt. European countries are struggling with their debt levels. Even developing nations are deep in debt. But here's the question that probably crossed your mind. If everyone owes money, who exactly are they paying it back to? Is there some secret rich country sitting somewhere collecting money from everyone else? Or maybe aliens are lending us money. Today, we're going to solve this mystery. The answer is actually simpler than you think, but it also reveals something fascinating about how our global financial system really works. The big misconception. First, let's clear up a big misunderstanding. When we hear national debt, we often imagine it like personal debt. Like when you borrow money from a friend or take out a loan from a bank. We think countries are borrowing from other countries and everyone is somehow in debt to each other in this endless circle. But that's not quite how it works. National debt isn't money that countries borrow from other countries in most cases. Instead, governments borrow money by selling something called bonds. Think of bonds as IOUs or promises to pay money back with interest. Who actually holds the debt? So who buys these government bonds? Who are the actual lenders? The answer might surprise you. It's regular people and institutions within each country and around the world. Let me break this down. Your own citizens. The biggest holder of any country's debt is usually its own citizens. When you have a savings account, a retirement fund, or invest in certain safe investments, there's a good chance some of that money is being used to buy government bonds. Why? Because government bonds are considered very safe investments. If you lend money to the government of a stable country, you can be pretty confident you'll get your money back with interest. Banks, insurance companies, and pension funds love buying government bonds for exactly this reason. For example, if you're saving money for retirement in the United States, your pension fund might invest some of that money in U.S. Treasury bonds. Congratulations, you're one of the people the government owes money to. Building infrastructure governments borrow money to build roads, bridges, schools, and hospitals. These projects cost a lot of money up front, but they benefit the country for decades. It makes sense to borrow for these investments, just like it makes sense for you to take out a mortgage to buy a house rather than waiting until you can pay cash. Managing economic crises. During economic downturns or emergencies like the COVID-19 pandemic, governments need to spend more money to help their citizens and businesses survive. They borrow this money because tax revenues go down during crises while expenses go up. Running normal operations. Sometimes governments spend more than they collect in taxes during regular years. This creates debt that accumulates over time. This is where debt can become problematic if it grows too large. The money circle. Here's where we get to the mind-bending part. The reason it seems like everyone is in debt to everyone else is because, in a way, they are. But it's not a problem, because money is constantly circulating. Imagine a neighborhood where everyone owes each other favors. You owe your neighbor to the left for helping you move. Your neighbor to the left owes the neighbor across the street for borrowing tools. That neighbor owes you for watching their dog. Everyone owes everyone, but everyone is also owed something. As long as everyone keeps their promises, the system works. The global financial system works similarly. Countries, banks, companies, and individuals are all borrowing from and lending to each other. Money flows in circles. The key is maintaining trust that everyone will pay back what they owe. Is this sustainable? You might be thinking this sounds like a house of cards ready to collapse. Can this really continue forever? The answer is, it depends. Debt becomes a problem when it grows too fast. If a country's debt grows much faster than its economy, that's a warning sign. It means the country might have trouble paying back what it owes in the future. Trust breaks down. The system works on trust. If investors stop believing a government will pay them back, they'll stop buying that government's bonds. This can create a crisis, as we've seen in countries like Greece or Argentina. Interest payments get too high. Governments have to pay interest on their debt. If the debt gets so large that interest payments eat up a huge portion of the government's budget, that's a problem. The money going to interest payments can't be used for schools, healthcare, or other important services. But here's the thing, as long as a country's economy is growing, it can handle a reasonable amount of debt. If your income is growing, you can afford to have some debt. Same principle for countries. The special case of the United States. The United States deserves special mention because it has a unique advantage. The US dollar is the world's reserve currency. This means countries around the world use dollars for international trade and keep dollars as savings. This creates huge demand for US government bonds. Countries need a safe place to store their dollars, and US Treasury bonds are seen as the safest option. This means the United States can borrow money more easily and at lower interest rates than almost any other country. Some economists worry this advantage might not last forever, but for now, it's a significant factor in the global debt system. Could we ever pay it all off? Theoretically, could all the world's debt be paid off at once? The answer is no, and that's actually okay. Here's why. If every country tried to pay off all its debt at the same time, there would be nowhere for all that money to go. Remember, one person's debt is another person's savings or investment. If you eliminate all debt, you also eliminate all those savings and investments. Our modern economy actually needs some amount of debt to function. Debt allows money to flow through the system. It allows businesses to invest, people to buy homes, and governments to build infrastructure without waiting to save up all the cash first. The real answer. So, who is all this money owed to? The answer is mostly to regular people like you and me, through our savings accounts, pension funds, and investments. It's also owed to banks, insurance companies, foreign governments, and even to countries' own central banks. The global debt system isn't a pyramid scheme or a scam. It's a way of moving money through time and space, allowing investments to be made now that will pay off later. The key is balance. Some debt, used wisely for productive investments, can help economies grow. Too much debt or debt used for wasteful purposes can cause serious problems. Conclusion. The mystery of who we owe all this money to turns out not to be much of a mystery at all. We largely owe it to ourselves, our institutions, and each other. It's a complex web of financial relationships that, when working properly, helps money flow where it's needed and allows economies to grow. Yes, countries need to be responsible with their borrowing. Yes, too much debt can cause problems. But the fact that debt exists isn't, by itself, a sign of doom. It's a normal part of how modern economies work. The next time someone worries about national debt, you can explain that it's not quite like household debt. The money is owed to bondholders around the world, many of whom are ordinary citizens saving for retirement or institutions managing people's money. And as long as trust is maintained and debt is managed responsibly, this system can continue to work. The global financial system might be complex, but at its heart, it's just people and institutions lending to and borrowing from each other with the promise to pay it back. Nothing mysterious about that, even if the scale is mind-bogglingly large.